people, I really wanted to do a shakedown hike. And while I have, lots of experience backpacking and with endurance sports, it's still really important, I think, to do a shakedown hike. Even though all my gear has been well used and I'm very familiar with it, I have not actually slept a night in my new Durston Xmid 1 Pro tent, but everything else that I can think of, I've tested out, I've used, I'm comfortable with. But the thing about shakedown hikes that I think a lot of people miss out on is that a shakedown hike is not just about the gear. Of course, that's important, but there's so much more to backpacking than just the gear. And even there's more to it than just the physical exertion, the effort of the exercise, and the nutrition and hydration that you need to do that exercise. And that's why this Walking for Wellness AT thru-hike is so important to me, and I hope it's something that you guys are all going to want to follow along with, because as I've been backpacking over the years, it's so important to know how you handle different conditions. And in a 1 night or a 2 night backpacking trip, it's really difficult to know how you're going to handle all the different scenarios. How do you handle not being able to go to the bathroom for, number 2, for like a day or 2 or something? Or what if you have to go multiple times in a day? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with days on end of rain and bad weather? How do you deal, or how do you know how you manage heat and your effort level there? When you're out for weeks and months at a time, a lot of other elements come into play, foot care and missing your family back home, and what's going on with work, and what kind of feelings are coming up with you now that you've been separated from the front country for so long, and you don't have those distractions anymore. What kind of things are coming up for you, and how do you deal with that? How do you manage that? How do you deal with those feelings? So often in the front country, we are distracting ourselves from our feelings and emotions with TV, with work, with school, with alcohol, with drugs, and all manner of other behaviors. But now that you're out in the wilderness and you're really only thinking about food and hydration and where you're going to sleep next, how do you manage all of these feelings? How do you manage exercise on a day-to-day basis? A lot of people don't have a lot of experience with that, where they're exercising for 3, 4, 5, 10 days in a row of long, hard exercise, like not just 30 minutes exercise, which is still, good, but when we're talking about 6 hours of exercise for a week straight, or 10 hours of exercise for a week straight, how does your body manage that? And how does your mind manage that? How do your feelings and emotions deal with that? How's your spiritual health with that? How do you motivate every day to do it again and again and again? So I appreciate the gear that everyone's testing out on their shakedown hikes, but there's so much more going on. I remember when I was up in Alaska for a 3-week trip, and it was just me and 2 other men, and the entire time we were up on the northern slopes of Alaska, north of the Brooks Range, we only saw 1 person in 3 weeks' time, and it gets really, really lonely out there. And to be away from family for that long, there was one day that we were taking a rest day. We had to put together our raft and our rig, and my 2 partners, they decided to go for a day hike, and I wasn't really feeling it, so I decided to stay back at camp. And I was alone in the Brooks Range wilderness for an entire day, all by myself. And that is a really lonely experience, and there's nothing there to distract you. I mean, this was really before smartphones and and we didn't even have GPS or anything like that out there. But it's really an incredible experience. I never had anything like that before, to be completely alone and isolated physically and emotionally. And how do you deal with that? And I think I might have even cried that day because it was just such a lonely experience. So I just want to encourage everybody to think about when they're planning for their thru hikes and they're doing their shakedown hikes, that they appreciate there's so much more than gear and, you know, all the feelings and day in and day out grind and making all those decisions day in and day out. There's a lot more to thru hiking than just the gear. And I like gear videos as much as everyone, but if you really want to be successful with your backpacking, you need to prepare and practice and experience all these different types of environments and scenarios that you might be in. So that's just a little bit as I get ready to do this, just a 2-night weekend shakedown solo. It's only the second time I'm doing a solo backpack for 2 nights, or even longer. I've never done anything longer than that. And I am expecting some rain this afternoon, so that'll be interesting to try out and deal with, because I don't even have that much experience in rain. So that's just a little bit of the beginning, and we'll see what happens on the trail. All right, so let's get this shakedown hike going. I am at the Caledonia State Park. I've got just about a quarter mile to walk to get to the trail. I've got my backpack all loaded up and my regular clothes. It's not raining right now, but it could. And I've got the plan for this weekend is just to head 3 miles south on the Appalachian Trail. I'm in southern Pennsylvania right now. And then on Saturday, I'll head 13 miles north to another shelter. And then on Sunday, just 10 miles back to the car. So just, you know, shake out the legs, see how they're feeling. I've got more than 2.5 days worth of food, just because, you know, I figure why not load it up a little bit. I did not weigh my pack. I am bringing my chair. That's the orange item right back here. And, you know, we'll see how it all feels. We'll see how I'm feeling. It's funny, I've been doing this for so long and I still get nervous every time I get started on a backpacking trip. But, you know, once you get moving and once you've done your first camp and all, things do kind of settle down. But it's just funny how you can be nervous, even with a lot of experience. So I'm excited just to give this a go and try things out. And I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. So I've said this before on other videos, but I've always thought of thru hikers as rock stars. And I'm like, I don't know, half mile on the AT today on this shakedown hike, and I just passed 3-day hikers, and then they stop me and they're like, hey, that's a thru hiker, are you a thru hiker? And it's just so fun to kind of be recognized as part of that community. You know, it's just really exciting. You know, I kind of feel like a rock star already, and that's just half a mile into a shakedown hike. So still climbing up this bit. It's basically 3 miles of uphill to the shelter today, but that's fine. It's only just barely drizzling, and it's just a lot of fun. So just being out here doing a shakedown, being recognized. So I wish I had a trail name that I could share with them. That would be really fun too, but hopefully that'll happen soon enough. So it's pretty funny, I've just been on the trail for only a little bit, and it's kind of funny how much I'm already talking to myself and thinking about what it's going to be like actually thru hiking. And you know, how for me, you know, it doesn't really matter what's around the next bend or how far an uphill is or downhill, at least right now anyway, because this is a journey. You know, this is going to be a long haul, so there's going to be ups and downs and good days and bad days, and just being in the moment is really one of my greatest goals. not thinking too far ahead, not reminiscing, or not reminiscing, but not lamenting on the past. You know, I just want to experience in the moment. And I'm already just so grateful to be out here just for this weekend. A little trial run, you know, just being out here for the weekend. I'm just so grateful that I can do something like this, and I want to appreciate every moment that I have, and that really fills my soul, just makes me feel so good at my core of who I am, and you know, kind of like what I am in the universe. You know, it just kind of takes my energy to a higher frequency, and I don't know, it just means so much to me, and I'm just so grateful for all that. I made it to camp in just over an hour, so I made pretty good time, and there's nobody here at this shelter. It's a pretty cool shelter. I'll try to get some video in the morning because it's starting to rain, and I got my Durston X-Mid Pro 1 up in, you know, really pretty record time. You can see my backpack here in the vestibule, and it is about 6:30 right now, and I'm pretty excited about this day. I feel pretty good, and it's going to be a pretty quiet evening, I suspect, with a little bit of rain, but that should end like at 10 o'clock or something, and clear up after that, so that'll be cool. And you know, I saw a herd of deer as I was coming to this little campsite, found a nice little spot about halfway down to the spring, and yeah, really looking forward to the evening. Really quiet time here in the woods, and I'm gonna make some dinner. I'm gonna take my Hammer vitamins, because, you know, sponsored by Hammer, and Hammer Nutrition, and you know, looking forward to a full day tomorrow, but I still have you know, the whole evening tonight. So yeah, really feeling pretty good about this afternoon. Okay, first official setup of the Durston X-Mid Pro 1 out in the wild, and I'll sleep in it tonight for the first night. Can't wait. So here's my dinner for the first night. I got some tuna, some chicken. I'm not sure if I'll eat the instant potatoes, and I can cold soak those really quickly. And this is my own creation. I call it an F-bomb or a fat bomb. It's basically a bunch of different nuts crushed up with a little bit of stevia, just a touch of grape nuts are in there. I think I threw in some raisins, and it's really just a fat bomb. And then right here is basically a half dose of the Hammer Nutrition Daily Essential Kit, because it really wasn't a big day, just 3 miles. But I am looking forward to this, and bon appetit. You can see it's already starting to clear up a little bit, and the rain is supposed to pass. Should be a nice night. All by myself here at this shelter. It's a dual shelter. I think there's like a snoring shelter and a non-snoring one. You could probably fit about 6 to 8 people in here, maybe 8. And there's 2 fire pits and then a stove pit in the middle. It's a little ways down to the spring. I'm about halfway down. There was a really nice flat spot there and a picnic table. But since it's raining, I'm not going to sit at the picnic table, and I didn't want to eat in my tent because I really don't like to have food in my tent. And granted, I'm eating at the shelter, but that's pretty common, and I'm just being really careful not to spill anything. And then there's a bear box just next door. So I'll put all my food and my toothpaste, anything that smells, I'll put in my bear bag and then in the bear box. So yeah. as part of the Walking for Wellness campaign, I want to do everything I can to be injury free. And what I've been doing for the last 24 years is foam rolling. So I've got my Nalgene bottle, and I'm just going to do a little bit of rolling on my legs. So right now I'm just rolling my quad a little bit, getting up toward the hip flexor, but not on the hip flexors. It's the upper quad. And then the lateral quad, making sure that my muscle is relaxed. And I've got videos on my channel about this, but just a little bit of foam rolling a day can really, I believe, help prevent injury. And it can also help with your recovery. Okay. And it's about 52 degrees now. I saw that there's a thermometer on the shelter. And so I'm actually a little chilly, but I don't have all my layers on. But this is a really nice way to warm yourself up a little bit, because it's kind of a workout. So just rolling the quads. And I'm using my Nalgene bottle, which is, heavier than a Smart Water bottle. But to do this, I think it's totally worth the wait. So I've got a spot here on my lower lateral quad on my left leg that's been knotted up for a long time, and I'm still trying to work that out. But yeah, this feels so good. I just wish more people would do this. I think it would help a lot, even more than stretching. I think that stretching is really good for speed of movement, dexterity, range of motion, but not so much for injury prevention or recovery. Now, of course, whatever works for you, keep doing it, right? If something works, doesn't matter what I say, just do what works for you. But that's all I need to do for my quads. And now I'm going to roll my calves. And I like to double up my legs here and even lift my butt off the ground and just roll my calves on this Nalgene bottle. Readjust as needed. The most important thing is making sure that the muscle is relaxed when you're rolling it. So many people flex their toe up, but you have to relax your muscle so that you can get in deeper. So just a few passes. This is definitely warming me up, so that feels good. And now I'll do my right leg. And I left my cork ball down at camp, and that's what I like to use on my glutes. And I do it against the wall of the shelter, or even a tree, but the wall of a shelter. And these walls are not rounded, they're planks. So it should be a lot easier to roll my glutes. And that really helps with your hips. So I think in the morning, I'll probably roll my glutes before I head out for the day. So that's really all you have to do. Do as much as feels good. And this really feels good. Rolling your calves, and especially the soleus, which is below that big bulbous part, is really good for addressing Achilles tendonitis and plantar fasciitis. It really can make a difference. So I'm recording this entire rolling session for my quads and calves. And yeah. All right, and that's it. Alrighty, so I'm just settling in for the night. It's about 8:30, and I thought I would do a quick, the win for the day and the challenge or character builder for the day. I really like when the other AT thru hikers, or backpackers anyway, do sort of that recap. It's kind of fun, so I thought I'd give it a try. So today, my win is that I was able to get out today, Friday. I left an hour later than what I had hoped, and that actually did make a difference. But it always takes a little bit longer to pack up than what you expect it to. So, I had half a work day, and it just takes time to pack up. But the win is that I made it out to the trailhead. I hiked the 3 miles to camp. I found the shelter and a great campsite and had a nice dinner, did a little foam rolling, and it's getting a little chilly, but I've only got like my base layer and my fleece on right now, and I had to pull out my rain jacket just for a little bit, but it's clearing up now, so it should be a nice night. And it's about 50 degrees right now. It's going to cool off a little bit more, but it should be comfortable, and I'm totally cozy. So that's the win, and I was feeling pretty good, so I thought I would go ahead and find the water and get water this evening rather than tomorrow. So it got dark quick, and I found the water, and that was fine. But the character builder for today is actually on my way back, and it was getting pretty dark. Of course, I had my headlamp. I totally almost crapped my pants. Like, my stomach was gurgling, and I really had to go, like, immediately. I wasn't going to make it back to camp. And luckily, I know how to use natural TP. I could clear a little hole in the leaves really quickly. And yeah, I totally almost went in my pants. But it all worked out well, and got back to camp, settled in. I feel good, and ready for a good night's sleep. So I hope that gives you a chuckle, because wow, that's almost like never happened to me, or not that close. So not sure what's going on there, but hopefully my GI settles down and all is well for tomorrow. So this is just a shakedown hike for the Walking for Wellness Appalachian Trail thru hike, coming up in a few weeks in 2025, April. And just a shout out to my sponsors. One is anonymous, the other is Hammer Nutrition, and the third sponsor is Uchi, the social app for authentic connection. It's not a social media, and I'll talk about that more another time, but check it out. It's a free app to have real conversations and real connections with the people closest to you. So until next time, peace, love, and connect.